And that's what life is about. Most of the times people can't get comfortable with themselves. They need outside stimulation. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, Mike, when you can stay at home and be just as happy without FOMO, oh my God, I'm missing out on so much. You know what I mean?
Dereak Messer of Messer, thanks for joining us, brother.
What's going on, fellas? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, well,
living the dream.
Dude, prior talking, I didn't know this about you. 13 years of sobriety. That's so badass. And we're definitely going to want to get into that. And as you said, when we were talking before we started recording, that fork in the road, I want to know what that was for you. But the new track, man, Hope in This World, I'm loving it. And people check it out. We got a link in the description. Why write a song about hope in this world right now?
Man, you know why? Because that's what I feel and we felt the world needs right now more than anything. I mean, the last 2 years, everyone's lives have changed so much. Some people's lives will never go back to the way they were, never, ever have a chance to. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of people lost their businesses. They lost their friends, over the division. And we just saw this was an opportunity where we could either, walk away from the music business, like some bands had did, just left, it's like, there's nowhere to play. There's nothing for me to do anymore. I'm going to go on with life. But, we weren't ready to give it up yet. You know what I mean? So we felt the world needed a good positive message that says that, there is hope out there. Let's all think about positivity and think about things that, will lead us in a positive direction instead of, sitting here wallowing in this depression filled life. That's where we were all at. And, it's something we felt we needed and we felt the world needed. Powerful message right now.
Did that thought ever kind of cross your mind, how some bands have decided, you know what, there's nowhere else to play, there's nothing to do? Like, has that thought crossed your mind in the midst of the pandemic?
It did. It did. We all were like, we had just come off this, God, we were probably out for a year and a half easily, coming home every couple months, for a week or something. And we were just out there pounding it hard. And we actually were out with Scott Stapp for a good 60 something dates right before, COVID hit, the whole lockdown happened. So we, in our minds, we were coming home off this long tour. We're going to take a quick holiday break, jump into the studio, record another song, get right back out there. We were talking about heading to Europe, doing some shows over there, and then screeching halt.
Yeah.
So, you come to that point in your life and you're like, well, man, what are we going to do? There's nowhere to play anymore. They say we're going to die if we walk outside. So,
yeah,
you think, well, this is it. We had a great run. It was awesome. But, we hope our music lives on, but I think we're done. And we all thought that for a moment, and, even a couple of our guitar players, both of them, they decided life, they wanted to do other things, so that's kind of where it was. We were like done, we're thinking there's no chance of this getting back to normal anytime soon. But then, we started getting messages every day from our fans, going, we miss you guys. You helped me through this life situation. I listen to your songs all day. I'm in this mindset and I listen to your music. It changes the way I think and the way I feel. When are you coming back? And, we were like, man, I don't think we can just walk away from this. It's not necessarily about us anymore as it is, bringing that energy to people where they can get that energy release and they can, have moments of clarity in their life where they feel like, life is worth living for, so that's kind of why we did it.
How did you manage your time during the pandemic? How did you keep yourself busy? Because I know for me during the pandemic, I fell off my sobriety.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably did during that time because there was just so much uncertainty, so. But what I did, man, is I took advantage of that moment right before the lockdown happened. And I was on Facebook and I saw a buddy of mine that I've been friends with since like 8th grade, way back. And he had made a knife from watching the TV show Forged in Fire.
I love that.
And I was like, man, I'm coming to be off tour. I'm going to come over. We're going to make a knife. And I'm so excited about it. And so we made a knife. He showed me all the techniques that he had learned. And, we started making knives and I posted it on, on social media. And our fans started reaching out going, man, I want a knife. I want a knife. And the next thing I know, man, we have this company that's kicking butt right now, Two Headed Dog Knife Works. That's our
the
logo right there. And man, we're making all kinds of killer knives, dude.
That's badass.
Yeah. So, and you know, my last name Messer translates to a knife in German. So it was always in my blood, man. So, you know, Messer, we've always seen ourselves as, you know, cutting edge music that cuts to your soul. So it all just kind of snowballed for it. And now we have a really cool company that's, you know, been blessed with making cool knives for people.
We've talked to a Messer.
Yeah, Leah Messer.
A little bit of a different career path than you guys, but yeah, we've spoken to a Messer.
Teen Mom.
Teen Mom, yeah.
That's funny. Prior to the recording, I had my Markita Kali shirt, sweatshirt on. My daughter and I love it. Yeah, and she wants to learn forging, so I might have to hit you up after this and get some advice. We haven't been able to find anyone around here to it has the knowledge. So it's
sure. We actually got the opportunity to meet Jason Knight from Forged in Fire. He was one of the judges on there that wore the kilt.
Yeah.
And you know, we turned into being actually pretty good friends. He keeps up with my knife company and he loves Messer. So we're thinking about maybe doing a Messer Fest at some point, you know, highlighting the people's love of knives and rock and roll, because it's the same people. The people who are making knives and the people who are buying knives are usually rock and roll fans. So it's two worlds that collide beautifully. So,
well, and the cool thing about it is just that growing sense of community, which speaking of the lockdown, my fall off, that disconnection that occurred. So I'm sure for a lot of people reaching out about the music and encouraging you gentlemen to keep doing what you're doing really was that community.
It was, man. That's what really made us, you know, really rethink the whole thing. And it's like, can we just walk away from all this that we've built, you know, these relationships and this connection with all these really cool fans and people from, you know, all walks of life. And we just didn't feel it was our time to walk away yet. So, you know, we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and said, you know what, we're going to make some more music. I mean, we cut a couple cover songs, you know, the COVID covers, as people call them, you know, that everyone was trying to do during that time, you know, because if you put out, you know, an original song, you really want to be able to take it out and tour on it,
right?
Get it in front of as many people as you can. And during that time, there wasn't that opportunity, you know, because there was nowhere to play. And so we just did a couple covers, you know, just to kind of feed our fans a little something until we were able to get back out on the road again.
And you threw a lot of that up on the YouTube channel, right?
We do. We have our YouTube page up there, and you can find us everywhere at Messer Band. And we did a cover of a Name by the Goo Goo Dolls. That was pretty cool. And then since we had just been on tour with Scott Stapp, we had this really cool cover that we did with Arms Wide Open.
Right.
I'd encourage everyone to go listen to that, because I did not do it the way Scott does. I love the guy to death, but I did a little bit different. We did it in a different key, so it's pretty cool.
Right on.
So during that your 13 years, during the pandemic, when all that hit, did you ever get to a dark place where your sobriety was tested at all? Or did it not really? Because for me personally, it didn't affect me. I'm an introvert. So staying indoors was not a problem for me whatsoever. Aside from going outside, you're going to die. So I just stayed inside. Exactly. But was that tested with you or anyone, you know, close to you or anything?
Well, man, I think now that I'm at that point, you know, that I've been sober for so long.
Right.
And I can still clearly remember a hangover in my head. If I just close my eyes, I can remember that feeling that you have.
Sure.
That fogginess. And usually that would just chase away any inkling of a desire for me, because I just remember that feeling. And
you didn't like the hangover shits and dehydration, and
I don't like that as much as I thought I used to, man.
I don't know anyone who
I was
does.
like, oh, they used to be so fun. But, you know, for me quitting, I mean, I was going hard, you know, I just wouldn't, you know, I didn't really have a sober up moment. I just kept drinking, you know.
Sure.
You were awake, you were drinking, you know, and then if you drink, you know, obviously you want to do other things. And, you know, I chose my kids and my sanity over that.
Good for you.
You know, I never did AA or anything like that. You know, power above and the power of my family and the love of friends. And it just made me realize that I did not want to be that person. You know, I didn't want to be that guy. So,
and it's interesting you said that, because Jason, he has his AA meetings, and it was virtual. So I was over here while he was doing it, and I was just kind of listening to it, because I've never been in an AA meeting or anything like that. And I heard it, And then he got off and I was like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. It was just very, I don't know the word for it. It was great though. Their camaraderie, how they can all relate. They're all, you know, they've been in each other's shoes. It's great. But that wouldn't be something for me either. So I get what you're saying. But
yeah,
it's like you handle
a lot of people. I know a lot of people that they need that. They need that.
Absolutely.
That responsibility. They are saying they have to answer to somebody else though. You know, they have to have a sponsor to help them. And
sure.
More power to that, you know.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you're choosing a good sponsor that's, you know, really, you know, can deal with everyday life. You know, you don't want to find someone who's barely hanging on to, because, you know.
Yeah, there's not a certain guideline. You go with what works for you. You know what I mean? Like I went to rehab and all that, but I didn't stop doing coke after I got out of rehab. No. There was something else completely different that had gotten me off of it. It was my mom. You know what I mean? It wasn't rehab, had nothing to do with it. If anything, I wanted to use more after rehab because I was fucking miserable there.
Well, yeah. So, and if you're going to go in there and talk about it with everyone else, what were you on? What did you do? What were your nights like? It's like, to me, that always seemed like that would, you know, make you want to go do drugs.
Right.
Hearing all these stories, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Right.
Well, for me and my group, it's more about what's going on now. What are we dealing with now? Especially, we'll talk a lot about our defects and things of that. Because, you know, my greater defect of character, you know, stems from trauma and looking for other people, especially women, to fulfill me. So, you know, I know that's a lot of us fall into our addiction stuff. Did you have anything in childhood that kind of you think took you to that? Or was it the rock and roll lifestyle and you were just kind of hooked into it?
Well, I think that for me, you know, a big part of it too was my dad was battling alcoholism. And I kind of traced that back to why he did what he did. He was one of 9 brothers. There was 9 of them. And at that time, and you know, he really grew up and was raised by his grandmother. So he'd hang out with his brothers all the time, do all that during the daytime. But when it's time to go home at night, he'd go home to his grandmother's. That's where his, you know, home was. And I think when she passed away is what my family always told me is when he started drinking hard and when he turned to alcohol instead, you know, and it took him when I was young. I lost him when I was probably 12 years old. And I just knew that I did not want that in my life. You know, I got to that point where it's like, man, I want to be with my kids, you know.
Yeah.
I want to be there and I want to be there forever, you know, as long as I can be. And I didn't want my kids to have those moments that I had seeing my dad like that.
Well, being that you're not a group guy or a 12-step guy, what was your process then for finding your sobriety and what helped it stick? You
know, really, it was my kids, because I was at a really dark spot, you know, where I was drinking nonstop and, you know, I was probably saying some negative stuff like, you know, I don't want to live anymore type things, you know, because you're out of your mind at that point anyway. So, and I think my ex-wife and who I'm still great friends with to this day, she got some family members together and they actually had me put into a place. I don't tell the story a whole lot because that is, you know, brings back a bunch of memories, but they put me in a place here called Green Oaks. And I spent a few days in there where they sober you up and give you some tough love. And I think just being in there, hearing the stories from the other people in there, some younger than me, some older than me. And I realized that, you know, I'd rather be a leader and not a follower. And I did not want to be that old person in there, you know, having these same issues day after day after day. And so, you know, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And every day was a struggle. You know, you get a couple days in, you're feeling good. You're like, oh, well, I can do this again. I can drink. I'm fine now. And then it became a week, and that week turned into a month. And then that month turned into a year. And every day that I was sober, I just felt that I was on the right path for me. And you know, I just would think about the way I was. And I was like, I'm going to keep trying this as long as I can do it. And then that, you know, those years turned into a decade. And now I'm about to hit 13 years. And, you know, I just want to help others. I want other people to, you know, to say, hey, that guy can do it. I can do it.
What are the struggles you found with being out there in the rock world? I mean, after a show, fan wants to buy you a drink, or there's lots of other stuff flying around.
Oh, always, man. I mean, that stuff's still there. You know what I mean? I try to make sure I don't stay in those crowds. I choose the people I'm around wisely. I spend a lot of time on the bus. You know what I mean? I walk off the bus, usually 5 minutes before I walk on stage, and I get inside, I do my thing, go back to the bus. And then I think we usually hit merch after that and meet some fans. But I just always keep myself at a safe distance from that atmosphere. Yeah. I try to meditate when I can. I think meditation is one of those things that would really help anybody. But especially those who struggle with addiction, you get those real cool moments of clarity, when you do meditate, even if it's 10 minutes a day of uninterrupted focus, and, find you a good meditation to listen to. And it really will help clear your thoughts. And, just kind of, the main thing I would say is if you're trying to get away from alcohol, do not go to bars for a while. Don't hang out with people drink every day, because that's going to make it 10 times harder, a million times harder, not 10 times, a million times harder. Mm-hmm. So what I did for the first year is I avoided all that stuff. I just didn't go out, and I know for some people that their lifestyles, that may not work for them, but, you got to come to that fork in the road where you say, hey, I'm going to go this dark path and be miserable every day when I'm sober, or I'm going to find out, why people who don't abuse and use drugs and alcohol, why they're so happy. And you're always going to have moments that you're not happy, regardless, and for me, I just always try to stay positive and always keep a positive mindset. I don't focus on anything I don't want in my life. And I just try not to listen to gossip or negative attitudes. We all have those friends that anytime you're around them, all they do is talk negative, how bad their lives are, man, nothing ever works out, this and that. And if you live around people like that, that mindset gets into your head as well. And you start thinking the same way. So I just try to avoid negative people, man.
Those energy vampires, right?
It is, man. They're the Collins, man. That's what they're the Collins out there.
Yeah, you just sit with them, and after like 5 seconds, you're like, "Shit, everything is out of you, man."
Everything.
What? I gotta go now. Oh shit, dude. We'll catch up later,
dude. You know what? And that's what you have to do. I've even said to people, "Listen, you're too negative. You're making me feel in a negative mood, and I came here positive, so I'm gonna leave until you can get your head right."
Well, and a lot of it hits the lyrics of Messer tunes. I mean, Save Myself is one for me that with a lot of the lyrics in it remind me of setting boundaries, breaking codependency.
That's what it's about, man. You know what I mean? Saving yourself. Don't stay in relationship situations that are negative, man. Don't do it to yourself. It's just not worth it. People always say, well, that's the person for me. How do you know? Your mind is so into that moment and that person, you don't know what's really for you. You got to sometimes step away to save yourself. You got to get away from those, especially toxic relationships. I always bring it up before that song in our live shows. And always there's a few people that will come up to me after the show, and thanking me for that moment. They're like, that song spoke to me because that's what I'm going through in life right now. And I'm like, it's time. If you can realize you're in that moment, then you can get yourself out of that moment.
That's why I decided I'm just going to Clooney it. No relation.
That's all you got to do.
We know a thing or two about toxic relationships.
Just a scope.
Just a
smidge. We all do. You know what I mean? We've all been in one. So
right. Or we've been, and the reality we kind of have to accept, if we are engaging in a toxic relationship, it's not just one person that's toxic.
It's not. You're feeding them as much as they're feeding you. So
what kind of, other than meditation, is there any sort of daily work for you that you do kind of, I know I've started doing gratitude lists. I'm working on the meditation.
Dude, the gratitude lists are key. That's the first thing I try to do every morning was when I get up and before you go to bed at night. Super important to be thankful. Recap your day, the moments you were thankful for, because if you do that, the universe is going to bring more of those moments into you. What you focus on is what you live. So I do that, and every morning the same way, and I get up and having my coffee, I'm thankful. I'm thinking about all the things. Is it a beautiful day outside? I'm thankful for this beautiful day. If it's rain, I'm glad we got some rain. We probably needed the rain. But you got to be thankful for things in your life that you want. Don't focus on the negative things that you don't want, because the universe has a way of bringing those negative things to you if that's all you're focused on. It thinks you want more negativity. So let's give this guy more negativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Another song that rings true for me, or at least kind of became a good like mantra tune, get me fired up, was Simple Man, because it talks, like you have the different choruses, starts with strain, pain, selfish, apathy. Was there like a theme that was thought about this when this song was kind of put out? Because I mean, it's really, I am just a simple man. I'm better off on my own. But lyrically, overall, in those juxtapositions there, it really kind of deals with some things thematically to be, for me, when I hear it, self-contained, happy within myself. Like, life is going to be fine. I'm good with myself. I got self-love.
That's it. That's what life is about. Most of the times people can't get comfortable with themselves. They need outside stimulation. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, Mike, when you can stay at home and be just as happy without FOMO, oh my God, I'm missing out on so much. You know what I mean? Some moments we're not supposed to experience. You know what I mean? Some things we're not supposed to experience in our life.
I love being
on
alone.
those things.
I'm all for it.
You know what I mean? It's what it's about. Simple man. You've got to be comfortable with yourself, because at the end of the day, you answer to you. It's your head you're inside of every day. So, I mean, we all look at that way sometimes. I'm a simple man. That's all I need. I'm better off alone. And if you push me, I'm going to push back. And it's what it's about. Just being comfortable in your own skin and being okay with being alone if need be. Better than being in the toxic relationship.
Oh yeah.
Toxic situation. Always.
And luckily that toxic relationship ended right before the pandemic. Could you imagine being stuck there? Now you can't even leave.
How do you, when you're out kind of, people haven't seen it, being around the bands, everybody wants to be your friend. How do you continue to create and have those boundaries and yet still be accessible to people?
Well, it takes a lot of willpower to not, let yourself get, fall into those moments of, oh man, this is a rock star I'm talking to. They want me to have a drink. Let's go hang out. You know what I mean? I've been fortunate to, build friendships with people like Lee from Pop Evil and people like that I can say, hey, I am sober, and they don't push it on you. You know what I mean? Being out with Scott Stapp, who was also sober at that time too, you know what I mean? Still is. But, being around people like that aren't going to push you. People all the time offer me drinks. I mean, every night I'm out, I'm like, and then once I say, hey, I'm actually sober, but I do appreciate it. And I'll still want to sit here and talk with you. They're usually pretty cool. They're usually pretty cool about it. I'm sure there's others that would say, come on, and kind of, but for the most part, people are respectful of that and they don't push. They just want your time. They figured, hey, if I buy you a drink, you're going to hang out and talk with me for at least 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So
right.
I just offer to talk, I'll say, hey, we can still talk, but I don't need the alcohol stimulation.
Right.
What does it mean to you? Because we had Scott Stapp on pretty early in the podcast. He was
cool.
Yeah, he was great. And it was cool to talk to him because I had interviewed him way back when he wasn't sober, as opposed to the guy now, and two different people and just beautiful. But
I can imagine, man. I didn't know him when he was in his toxic days like that, but we did share some stories on the road, which was cool.
I bet. What's it like to have those kind of mentors? Well, I don't know if it's mentor, but that camaraderie with someone like that too has had the same struggle, but come through it, gone out and still doing kick-ass music. His last album was great.
Yeah, I mean, it gives me hope to know that that's possible. You know what I mean? This person who's had mega success, and went down that dark path and had all of that part of his life, on YouTube, stuff that I'm sure he would love to take off. Thank God a lot of my crazy stuff happened before YouTube. You know what I mean? Geez, I could tell you crazy stories with Alice in Chains and everyone else, but
we were going to ask, so you could.
Yeah. No, I went through all those crazy times back in my old band. My old band had gotten this record deal with Columbia Records, who Nick Terzo had just signed Alice in Chains right before us. So we were hanging out all the time, here in Texas and in Hollywood, and, doing, coke and tons of drinking with those guys. You know what I mean? Those were the rock and roll days. That was, and partying with Vinnie Paul and Dimebag,
Sure.
Those moments. And to make it out of those days, because I've lost a lot of friends from back in those days to alcohol and drugs, you know what I mean? And I was good friends with Dave from Drowning Pool before he passed, you know what I mean? I've known him forever. And that was, moments like that are just so sad to see, people that you not only admired, but were friends with, go from this lifestyle, so. I
mean, I remember when Mike Starr, Alice in Chains, when he passed, and it was just, there was, that guy, and unfortunately, I don't know, it depends upon what impact it has. It was televised essentially when he was doing the reality TV.
Yeah, for sure. And same with Lane, losing Lane was not only, that was a huge loss for the rock and roll, that's, those guys, I'd love to see what he and Chris Cornell and Chester and all those guys would be doing today, We
talked to Jamie, Chester's son, he was on here, and, I couldn't imagine, if there was the thing, and I guess that's a part of it. Sometimes we lose people in it, and because of this disease of addiction and their mental health struggles, because, I've yet to speak with very few people that, fall into addiction that don't have some sort of trauma, mental health struggle of some kind.
It is. And it usually stems from that, and it's mainly because that issue was never dealt with, maybe they didn't have the tools how to deal with it. Maybe they didn't have the right person to talk to about it. Maybe they were just too embarrassed to talk about it. So they thought this is normal. This is just how I am, and that's just not always the case. Sometimes it's a simple interaction with someone who's been through it that can actually help you and steer you in the right direction, instead of you thinking every day, this is what life is. I'm supposed to be depressed every day. I'm supposed to chase it away with alcohol. I'm supposed to do these things because that's the way life is. And, unfortunately you miss out on a lot of great moments because you get that mindset.
Yeah. Well, and I think more so, I don't know your opinion for men, or at least I think you and I are roughly about the same age. I'm pretty sure you're a few years younger.
You're 29 too? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool,
yeah. I was going to say, no, I'm 33. I think you're about 4 years younger. But we kind of came from a generation where, our dads and men in general is just kind of like whatever it was, you put dirt on it. We didn't talk about this shit.
Exactly, man. We were definitely groomed from a young age to be that way, and it's crazy to see how things have changed so much and how, the younger generation are these days, especially the men, and the guys, and how different they are from the fathers we grew up with and the grandfathers we knew and stuff like that. So, it's day and night really, but yeah, we were, that's what they tell you, look at Al Bundy, you know what I mean? Look how the character he had to play, You got beat down all day at your job. You get beat down by your wife and kids all day. And that's just life, You relive your glory days and,
I call complete bullshit for owning that big of a house for just being a shoe salesman with children. But with that being said, it's funny you guys mentioned that because I'm 33 and I also came from a throw dirt on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Except for my mom. My mom was very understanding. She's anxiety filled. So was my grandma, her mom. So she understood what I was going through. My dad did not. And that's fine. And I'm glad he didn't understand it because I wouldn't wish anxiety on anybody. No. But with that being said, my sister, she has 2 boys and a daughter, my niece, and they're so just, the kids do something bad or whatever. And then in my head, I'm thinking, damn, that's a smack in the head, possible bleeding out of the ears if I were to act like that. But my sister's like, no, what I want to do is I want to talk to them. I want to get in their heads as to why they're acting the way they are. I'm like, Smack them in the
Right
fucking head
there.
because they'll never do it again because they'll realize that smack hurt. I don't want to get smacked again. But
Right there is a big problem these days, I feel anyway, is that we lost a lot of that. Everybody's so terrified to, oh my God, he disciplined someone or they disciplined them. We're all in this woe is me world these days. And it's sad really, because, it's gonna change the way people are for a long time.
I think it really screws with self-esteem in that I know like my generation, you might get hit, but not explain to why.
Right.
I think, if there's hey, you've gotten a consequence, you've gotten a punishment for your actions.
Yeah.
And here is why. Here's what you did, and here it's why.
Yeah.
I think people, kids, they're absorbing everything. You're a dad. You got two, right?
I've got 4.
4? Oh,
Four,
I thought you had 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got 2 daughters, son, and
I got 3 daughters and a son.
Oh.
And my son is like me, he's 21 and he's a go-getter, young, good-looking kid. So I'm trying to steer him in the right direction all the time. You know what I mean? And don't take advantage of life, man. Just,
right.
Be good to people. Be good to people.
And it's a tough thing. I know for me, like a lot of the ego Phil is like, oh man, I get this chick to hang out with me or that. And in retrospect, it's that snorting of people and it's so shitty,
Yeah.
So, and I know I hate when it's done to me. Why do you think God either punished or blessed you? 3 daughters. That's tough. I got 1. That is tough.
I know, man, and it's, I kept thinking, well, it's probably the way I was. Maybe I was too much of a womanizer growing up and now I'm going to have to pay for it,
All right.
But I've been blessed. My daughters are
imagine
awesome. So it's, they don't give me any reason to stress really. They're good kids. So I'm very lucky.
Cool. That is cool. That is cool. If you don't mind asking, you did mention you're still very good friends with your ex-wife. Was there a lot of work that you two had to do between you to get a good place? Because I think it's valuable as a divorcee and other people that go through that.
Yeah. It always blows people's minds when they see us and they meet us and they're like, wait a minute, you're friends? It's like, yeah, we hang out. I love her husband. They're good friends of mine. I've known her for so long, since she was so young. And, it's like, we can't let our personal, emotions get in the way of us being parents to 3 children. You know what I mean? This is something we're going to live with the rest of our lives. So she and I just got to a point where we're like, you know what? We're still friends. We're good friends. We're not in love, but we're still good friends. So, and we wanted to be the best parents that we could. So, it takes a lot of personal pride. You got to take your pride and just check it at the door. You have to say, you know what? I was wrong a lot, and you were wrong a lot, but doesn't mean if we take that relationship part out of it, the love relationship, husband and wife, then we become friends and good parents together.
Yeah. Well, and that comes with really healthy boundaries too.
Really, it does. That's exactly it. And, I respect her. She started off as a nurse and now she's worked her way up to CNO, and she runs many hospitals and tries to give back all the time. So she's a great role model to the kids as well. So it's easier, when you're looking up to someone like that instead of looking down on somebody. I think that's one of the most important things with getting over a relationship and moving on is to think about the good in them versus focusing on the things that you think are bad, because sometimes the things you might think are bad aren't really that bad. They're in your head.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of us like to tell ourselves a lot of bullshit stories.
All the time we do. Of course, man. You got to always make yourself out to be the good guy. And it's like, but really in the end, when you really think about it later in life, you go, you know what? I probably was really wrong there. So.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing that, because it's so important for people. I see it too much where they just, whatever reason, a relationship breaks apart. I mean, addicts that use together, or one person's an addict, you pretty much have 100% guaranteed that it is a dysfunctional relationship.
For sure. Yeah, you rarely see those relationships last. If you're going out every night and drinking with that other person, and I've watched this happen to many and many of my friends, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not going to last. You're going to start butting heads because you're sobering up at different times. You know what I mean? You're always in that mindset. letting the alcohol make decisions that eventually that's not going to work. It's going to fail.
Like you said, you focus on the kids, focus on being, good and there for them. And I think a lot more kids,
Most important.
They're children of divorced parents would be better off. Sometimes relationships go bad. Doesn't mean that they're a failure. So everybody's like, oh, this relationship didn't work out. It doesn't mean you failed in it. Just some relationships go different ways.
Yeah, sometimes it's not your soulmate. You know what I mean? And it's just never going to work no matter how much you want it to. You're either going to have to sacrifice all this stuff about yourself that you don't want to sacrifice in order to make it work. And most likely it won't work out at that point anyway, because they're going to be a taker and not a giver. Yeah. So if it's not a give and take relationship both ways, it'll never work anyway.
Well, Mikey, you got any more questions for Derek before we jump into those fun random questions?
No, let's get into it.
All right. You're up first.
All right. If they were to make a movie about you, who would you cast to play yourself?
Dude, this is a no-brainer. Johnny Knoxville. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Listen, I've used that before. It's funny when I was younger, too, because we both had the black hair. And then when I just let mine go, he let his go. So it's like
I didn't notice that until you said it. Once you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. It is.
Dude, when I remember my son was younger too. Kids would come up to us at the mall. Are you Johnny Knoxville? And my son used to get a big kick out of it. And then we went to the NAMM convention out in Anaheim a couple times, a couple different years. And we rolled up in it. One time we rolled up in a big old work van. And I jumped up there, had red glasses on and said, hey, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Where do I park for this NAMM thing? And dude, they gave VIP parking every day. Two days in a row. The third day they caught me, but 2 days in a row, we got VIP parking 20 feet from the door. Otherwise it would have been 2 to 3 miles away. So thank you, Johnny.
Nice.
That is awesome. Let's talk about influences. So let's jump back. What were maybe like 3 bands that when you were younger that made you really curious about music and wanting to get into rock?
Man, I tell you, I had older siblings growing up. So I was exposed to stuff a little bit above my generation. But man, for me, when I first started, I was into like Peter Frampton. I was into Kiss. I was into Alabama, the country band.
Oh, yeah.
And the Beatles. Bands that had cool harmonies, you know what I mean? The harmonies, the Beach Boys, when they had those cool harmonies, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool how they can do this with their voices. Oh. And then as I got a little bit older, I discovered the Doors, and man, Jim Morrison, that's really, he drove me a lot. I really loved that whole Doors sound, that whole never knowing what Jim was going to do or say, Ray's playing. I mean, just everything about the Doors really moved me.
Hell yeah. Funny story real quick. So my first concert, I don't remember what order it was in, but we went to the Mid-State Fair here in California and we saw Alabama, the Beach Boys, and Lionel Richie all in like a span of 3 days. So
what a lineup.
Right. So I got 2 of that and I'm with you. Alabama's badass. One of my all-time favorite country acts for sure.
Yeah, man, for sure. For sure.
Top 3 favorite movies.
Top 3 favorite movies. Man, there's a movie called Trees Lounge. I don't know if you guys know Steve Buscemi, but he wrote, directed, and starred in that movie. Huh. So I would definitely say if you haven't found Trees Lounge yet, definitely look that one up. Man, I got to throw in like a Scarface. That was always, and Star Wars, man. Actually, I'd say the whole trilogy of Star Wars. And my son's really big into Star Wars now, and so I think that one is, the old school Star Wars movies.
I'm with you.
Jason loves hearing that.
I haven't grown up. My girlfriend thinking that she's understanding. I got 2 bookshelves full of Star Wars Legos. That's
yeah. I mean, dude,
I tried, man. I tried to like it. I couldn't get into it. I tried, and it's not hating against people who are into it. It's just wasn't my thing. I wanted to, but I just couldn't.
I tried.
I really did. I saw the one with Darth Maul.
Okay,
that one.
Hey, now the new stuff they're doing, they're bringing Darth Maul back, and that's going to be pretty insane.
Oh yeah, that stuff
Disney's doing it, so hopefully they won't screw it up or anything. But it looks pretty intense for what I've seen so far. So
I know I've enjoyed the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, so I'm cool with it. Messer's hitting the road. You guys are headlining. You got 2 other bands you're taking with you. Who are you taking out there with you?
Man, let me think of bands that are still together right now. You know what I mean? Still doing this. I mean, I would love to do some shows with, dude, I mean, they'd probably be bigger than us. Well, they would definitely be bigger than us. But dude, Alice in Chains, I still want to go back out and do some stuff with Jerry. That would be freaking so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Man, we always had fun with Non-Point. Those guys are high energy and always fun. I mean, I would do those guys. I mean, for sure, Pop Evil again, you know. Pop Evil, we always have fun when we tour those guys too. We love those high energy shows, man, where they're, you know, the crowd just gets crazy.
Yeah, give us a rock show, damn it.
That's it, man. You know, let's get sweaty in the front. Let's all freaking headbang and have a good time.
Yeah, I don't want something that inspires me to sit down.
No.
I can't do those shows.
No. We need bright lights and explosions and all that stuff that we include in a Messer show.
Hell yeah. Mikey, you got one more?
I do. If you could have dinner with anybody, living or dead, anybody in the entire world, who would it be?
It would be my dad, just because, you know, like I said, I lost him at such a young age that I'd really like to go back and, you know, see what his life was like before he passed.
Dereak, if people want to know more about the band, of course, the latest track, Hope in This World, you guys can check it out. It's on every streaming platform. Bookmark it, save it, add it to a playlist. Great tune. I recommend all the Messer tunes. Got a whole playlist just for Messer myself.
Yeah.
If people can check you guys out, how do they find you?
Man, the best way is our Messer app, available in your Google Play or your Apple Store. We have a brand new app. It's bright yellow and has our M logo. That's the best place to find exclusive content. We're going to post stuff on there that we won't post on our social media. So that's a great place to go. Messerband.com is always good, but social media, man, you know, just hit us up. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the places.
Well, Dereak, we like to have the guests leave us with the final thought. So anyone that's just out there struggling, maybe it's like us that struggle with substance abuse, addiction, or a mental health issue that you can lend.
Yeah, you know what? Don't give up. Stay positive. You know, think of positive stuff. I always say change the station. If you find your mind wandering, getting deeper into this dark place, change the station. If you're listening to music, change the radio station, literally. And it'll snap you out of that moment and give you a little bit more something else to think about. But try to always focus on the positive, leave the negative behind you, and it'll never serve you.
Hey, Uncle Mikey, you got anything else?
No, I'm going home.
On that note, keep knocking doors down.